with the screenplay, I really was setting out to explore questions of, you know, moral and ethical debate, I guess, really. You know, a series of characters who all are affected by one incident, and they have very different ideas and points of view on crime and the punishment that fits the crime, and also relationship with social justice and forgiveness. You know, and it was really the movie's a thriller, but it's a debate and a discussion about those things. And what fascinates me, two things. One is not just what happens when you make a mistake, but how do you conduct yourself in the aftermath? And the other thing I was really interested in is about the evolution of a person, you know, through life, from being very clear on their ideas about the world and ethics, being very black and white about your opinions on things, to evolving into a person who sees that there's a little bit more grey out there.
That's interesting. Well, there's three characters, and there are three different age groups. You're one of you're the young guy, you're the young detective. What he just said is where you see things black and white. Is that what's going on with these three characters? Is various degrees of seeing things black and white?
I think it is various degrees, and you know, it's when you break it down, it's quite obvious in a sense. You've got a young guy who, you know, thinks he can see that definitive line, the difference between the two, and an old guy who is very much living in a world of kind of grey areas and understands that it's just not that simple. And then, you know, a fella caught in the middle because of an extreme circumstance he's put himself under, where he then has to wrestle with withdrawing that. And I mean, Joel's character Mal probably already has, you know, a slightly more seasoned sense of, what's kind of acceptable and what's not, and when to kind of do things by the book and when not to. But I think, you know, that personal kind of juggling act that he goes through is really interesting exploration. And of course for myself as well, my character anyway, the perspective he gains over the course of the movie, and realising at the end that he in a sense is protected by grey areas in a way, and it's just not as kind of simple as right and wrong.
In the background, there's Australia's, I guess, newer race relations. I mean, the racism is sort of in the background there.
Mm.
Can you comment on that? How do you bring it in, and how do you, the subtle way that you
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because the film is very much in the background about that cultural tapestry of Australia. There used to be a line in the movie where Tom's character, wonderful Tom Wilkinson, ladies and gentlemen, who referred to the area that they were policing as kind of like the Noah's Ark of Sydney. It's like all the different cultures all cohabiting together. And I didn't want to make a statement so much about that in the foreground, but just for us to see that in the background, and that perhaps this woman whose son is hit by me in the car is one of the disenfranchised minorities of that community, who perhaps has a sort of a timid and difficult relationship with authority herself based on her own cultural history. But that all those characters in the background are all these sort of characters from different races and different corners of the world, and yet the policemen that are policing those people are all white Westerners, I guess, Westerners within Australia.
Having one of the stars being the screenwriter, that could be
Difficult.
A formula for disaster.
Yeah.
How did it work out, Jay?
Chaos, mate. Absolute chaos. No, I don't think. I mean, look, I guess there is that potential, but that wasn't our experience at all. And it was great having Joel there. I mean, we didn't have a lengthy rehearsal process, but we had some great discussions in the room as a full cast, going over the script and talking about certain things and working with, you know, our kind of the paramedic advisors and the detectives that we had kind of working closely. And look, I think having a writer in the room is wonderful, because someone who's kind of as flexible as Joel is and just interested in telling the best version of this story, you kind of have, you know, you're not in a studio system where you have to run something up the chain and wait for it to be signed off on in order to change something. Instead, you've got this collaborative environment where really the authority on that subject is sat right next to you. And
Very short chain.
yeah, it's a very short chain.
I just had a flashback of those moments we had a big production office, which was an old office building, and running those drills of, you know, arresting. we worked with these great detectives who helped us a lot.
Arresting each other.
Yeah, arresting
Busting
each other
in.
and busting, you know, running through paramedic stuff, and it was fun. It's always part of the fun of any film, whether it's a film that's you know, about ideas and austere like this one is, or something adventurous that we've both had the pleasure of working on. Those bigger films, is you get some version of what they call boot camp, where you kind of get to dive into someone else's life for a minute. And then what I love about detectives is they have a very dangerous career. I mean, they go to work every day and there's something, you know, they're getting closer to something dangerous than we ever will. And yet they're just real people. But for a moment, us fake people get to experience different real people's lives, you know, and that was one of them. You know, learn how to pin someone to the ground and put handcuffs
How's
on
that
them.
arm trick that, like, you can just basically apprehend a man of any size
Yeah, make them squeal.
just based on how you bend his wrist?
Jai's about to show you.